Buenos dias. Day 11. Walking today from Vigo, where I was yesterday. Got to yesterday. A little bit of a view down there up ahead. I'll show you more when we get into a better spot. I'm walking today to a place called Redondela. It's about 16 kilometres, so only 10 miles. Legs feel good actually today. No after effects from yesterday. And I just bumped into a group of Australians actually, one of whom originally came from York and still had I said, I reckon there's an English accent in there somewhere, and she came from York originally, and they had a rest day yesterday in Vigo. Hang on, there's cars coming. Get out of the way. And I was saying that, it was really weird going into a city and having, albeit only several hours in the city, but it was almost a shock to the system. Yes, of course, I've been through towns, things like that, but nothing quite like a city and the way that cities work. And there aren't many signs in the city. Coming out of the city, definitely had to use the phone app. I think if you'd done research, you knew which way you were headed and you could have found your way. And once you got more or less outside the city, you start to see the unofficial yellow arrows. I've not seen any official signs. And apparently Vigo are probably more interested in what happens in the port than they are with pilgrims, shall we say, coming through the city. Though say, having said that, one thing I was going to mention actually was that it's better, right the way along, but certainly yesterday was on the walk towards Vigo, was the amount of people that recognise what you're doing, toot their horns on their cars as they go past and wave sort of thing. A guy near Bayona shouting out of his window, young guy, good morning, buen camino, all that sort of stuff. And older women, there's one older woman I passed and she said buen camino to me. So people are very friendly. They recognise what you're doing. I think I told you about the little kid in a restaurant somewhere, and I walked in, he was with his family, and I kind of go, buen camino, and I thought, really nice. So it's people recognise that you're doing it, and I suppose they recognise and respect what you're doing, and the obvious effort. Oh, we are, look, behind me, the view right down into the bay, and as I said, it's actually a huge bay, and the islands are that you could see from, you might be able to see them behind there, and they're you can see them certainly from Bayona before that, and I think you're going to be able to see them pretty much all the way up the coast from now. But it is weird, thought this before actually, I might have mentioned it, but when you get a view, when you look back across the bays or down the headlands, down the coastline, and you really think, I've walked all that way. As far as the eye can see, I've walked all of that. And that is quite something, actually, get your head around, never having done something like that before. But going back to what I'm doing today, on to Redondela, as I said, leaving the coastline, and come up into some sort of wooded areas behind me, and heading inland now, although this is still officially the coastal route, the littoral route, which is a feeder, if you know what I mean, of the coastal route, has now gone. This is it, and this is the last day of the coastal route, because I think it's just before Redondela it meets up with the central route. So all of the Portuguese routes meet up Redondela, and then they all go in as one up towards Santiago. And it's similar, as I was saying, about the Française route, the French route. There are, like the path I mentioned from Montpellier, the one that I mentioned about that programme that came from Austria, Switzerland, and even the one from Seville, the La Plata route, they all meet up at some point or other on the French route and then go into Santiago. But they go into Santiago and we approach the city from a different direction on this Portuguese section than what you would on the French route. So all these sort of feeders, and if you look at the scallop shell, which is the symbol, and I can't remember, I meant to look to see why they use the scallop shell, but if you look at a scallop shell, you see the view behind me, well, I'll tell you, all the lines from the larger part of the shell all go down to the bottom. And I wonder whether that's where they use it, because all the roots feed into the central point down at the bottom, and that's one reason. I like to think that's one of the reasons. I'm sure there are far more religious reasons. Anyway, so I'm off. There's some great views. I was promised some great views from up here, and there certainly are over there. So, right, onwards. Here we go. No doubt I shall speak to you a bit later. Adios. Just a quick one. I just stopped to take a photo, reinforcing what I said earlier about the people. Stopped to take a photo down across the bay. Photogenic, very photogenic, light, because it's the clouds have been over. It's light rain actually to start, but that's clearing up. There's clouds around, and I don't think it's going to be much rain. I'll put my little pack cover. Anyway, standing there framing the photograph, and this older lady, her husband goes past and stops behind and goes, "Oh, bonito, bonito," and then wishes me buen camino. See, that's what it's like. That's what it's like. Always like the Spanish people. Always very friendly. Anyway, adios. Been walking an hour or so now, and just come up the path there to one of those little Donativo places. I mentioned I saw a photograph on the day that we had the rain, which seems like ages ago now. Came across that one in the middle of nowhere. It's a nice little village around here where we are at the moment, and there's this little woman almost in their garage. She's there, but fruit, water, soft drinks, all that type of thing. Pay what you want. She's got shells on there, you know, like scallop shells, and she does stamps and that as well. So you get your credential stamped, because from now on you have to get 2 per day, which is no hardship at all. And I've just passed actually the first official mileage post that I've seen since about 140 kilometres around Bayona area, 96 kilometres. I knew I'd be under the 100, so under 100 to go. So that means that I've done 170, something like that. So well over the hump on the downhill stretch, feeling good. And it's great to see little places like that. All the people, I could see all the pilgrims in front of me all lined up, gathering around like a garage, and then I realised why. So yeah, nice. And the sun seems to be coming out, taking the waterproof thing off as well. So on we go. Thought I'd just show you this. I feel as though I've finally got out to the environs of the city. The traffic noise, you've been able to hear it, but that bridge has taken most of it away, and you look back, I mean, that isn't the city's the other side of the water. But yeah, finally getting there, and walking through lots of wooded areas, and you see them all up here and coming along, and so the clouds are still clinging onto the tops of the mountains or the hills, and you can tell it's actually rained a fair amount in this area overnight, I think, in the woods. Not bad, no, it's not bad underfoot, but you can tell it's rained. But it's going back to what I was saying earlier about being in the city, and then you get out and it's a shock, and then you come back, because I haven't actually done much walking within woods apart from that one day when we had all that rain. So I was going to say soak it up, but I certainly did, but that was my feet. Yeah, look, go around, all the way around there. Once again, those islands are still there. Going up this little track here, back into the woods by the looks of it. You can actually still hear a bit of the traffic, but not as bad as it was. Let's see what this is, one of the signs here. Look. I don't think you can see that. 92 and a half, not bad. So back into the woods by the looks of it and going around another headland. Not sure how long I've got to go actually. I don't think it's that far. So making good progress and very nice. Adios. Going around the headland, there's still, probably can't see it, it's sort of disappearing as I speak. All the sort of mist up in the tops of the trees, and here maybe hear the birds singing. Lots of locals walking along here as well, up in the hills. And just another little aside actually, not far back, I think it's when I took video of that bridge out of the city, and there was a sign on the road, you know, painted into the road as they do, saying coffee bar, and I thought, oh, in an arrow, I thought that sounds quite fancy that. And then I started hearing this music and sure enough, coffee bar just up a little hill, but it's music coming out and blaring out, and I thought it sounded like Sade or something like that. I mean, I've got nothing against Sade, it's quite pleasant in its own, you know, in the right place, but I don't want to sit there and have a nice cup of coffee and relax and have to listen to loud music. It wasn't background music, it was actually quite loud, and one of those things that sort of bugs you. You're getting old, Andy, yeah, I know that, but and as I said before, this is one of those things that I'm doing, just sort of relaying my thoughts as I'm going along, for me, and maybe it's a bugbear of yours as well. But it's so many times, so they've lost a customer. Whether they get others, I don't know. I would imagine it would repel more people than it would attract, even though I've not seen anything else. But they did say this particular stretch there wasn't really anything going on, so be prepared, bring your water and that. But I would have stopped and had a nice cup of coffee. Sorry, Sade, but not really the thing when you're doing this. So I'm going to keep going. Buen camino. Well, here we are, Redondela. It's only about 11:30. Already arrived. Supposed to be 10 miles. I'm not sure that it was 10 miles, but a very nice walk actually. Took it pretty easy, and up through, as I said, it took a long time to get out of the city of Vigo. Oh, you felt as if you were out of the city. In fact, even coming as far as this, you still feel you're almost within touching distance. I say it's meant to be 16 kilometres, getting on for sort of 10 miles. But a nice walk, as I said, up in the forest and everything. Little bits of rain. I mentioned about missing out on a cafe, and then, as luck would have it, a bit like the other day when I got caught in the rain, the rain came, you could see it, I could see it coming through the hills in that all the misty rain, and got there just in time. It started raining, and then there was a nice little cafe, so I went up to the cafe and managed to get a coffee without being disturbed by loud music, and a nice place to get out of the way and sit around and just while away a little bit of time while the rain disappeared. So, and now the people are all coming in here. there's an albergue behind me, and there's another one I just passed around the corner. Everyone's sitting outside waiting to get in. I'm not sure what time they're open. This one looks like it might already be open actually. I'm not staying in an albergue, I'm staying in another place. I might actually find out if I can get in there actually, because it can't be that far from here, and then I can dump the bag and sort of have a look around. Plenty of little bars and things like that I think here, but it's a town of railway bridges. It looks as though there's two big railway, one under one, and there's another big one. I don't think you can see it from here actually, unfortunately. But one thing I was thinking about walking and all these sort of thoughts, because I had another thought actually while I was walking, and it's one of those things, isn't it? And it used to happen with running. You get into a groove and you forget about everything that's around you, especially with walking. And I've done lots of videos like this when I've walked, not on this Camino, but before, when I was talking about my YouTube days and vlogging days. You go out and something strikes you and you have to make a video about it, or you don't have to, but you feel like making a video about it because, you know, these things sort of come into your head while you're wandering around, you know. Hence don't use headphones and that while you're walking. Take it all in, soak it up, as I say. Anyway, reminded me that video, the cafe with the loud music, reminded me of a couple of other things that are sort of the rules that I have if I'm travelling around, is that if at all possible, I won't eat in a cafe, bar, restaurant, whatever, that's got pictures of the food outside. I'm trying to think the last time I might have had to do that, but normally I don't. I just won't do it. And yesterday, walking around in Vigo, there's several places to eat, even though it was a Sunday, having a look around, and I saw one. I thought, oh, this looks nice. This looks like a nice place to sit and, you know, while away an hour or two, have something to eat. So I said to the guy, have you got a menu? And he pointed to a QR code, and I just walked away. I'm not having. No. It's one of those things that's come in since COVID. I'm going off on one again here, but this is a sort of thinking aloud once again. And these things that come into your head is QR codes. No, I'm not going to do your work for you. Yes, I realise that you're then going to come at me with an environmental thing that you're not printing and you're not using paper. But that's an excuse. You know that, and I know that you're just being lazy and having the QR code so that I have to do all your work for you. And no, I won't do that. I want to actually see a menu that's a proper menu. I don't care if it's in Spanish, that's fine. So that's another one. So yeah, maybe you can join me in my quest. Don't go in cafes with loud music. Don't go into restaurants or whatever with pictures of the food outside, and don't go into restaurants if they've got a QR code instead of a menu. Anyway, I shall leave it there. Have a wander, see what is around. It seems like a busy little place. It's quite a small place. But I don't think there's a great deal going on at the moment. Anyway, I shall speak to you some other time. Adios. Well, I'm sitting here with my lunch, my bocadillo with Iberico ham and cheese. That's just the first Iberico ham I've had. That's half of it. I've eaten half of it already. Not bad for €3.50, and some Estrella Galicia as well. And right in front of me, this is one of those little cafes where everything happens. It's obviously a locals place. Got all the old boys sitting next to me. Right in front of me is one of the albergues. I think it's the main sort of municipal albergue. There was people queuing outside of that earlier on. I've just seen like there's all the peregrinos going past. Noticeably more, as I mentioned earlier, about the paths joining up. Hadn't noticed it, but actually being in town here, certainly seen more, lots of groups of people, and also a group that's just come past. It looks like they come from Valencia with blind or partially sighted pilgrims as well. Great, being led obviously on their way. So what a great place to sit and watch the world go by as you do sort of a sort of a Spanish afternoon. Lunch goes on forever. These people are still coming into town and sorting out their accommodation, and lots of them. I'm set fair for the afternoon, I think. So I'll speak to you later. Adios.